After my SR1 challenge with Djura, I decided to try a few more challenge runs. So I went with the first thing on the list, Dark Souls 3 with only Sorcery. I have a lot of challenges planned for Dark Souls 3 and other games in the series, but I just want to get this game out of the way since I consider this game to be the easiest to do challenge runs with, and from there we'll be going up in terms of difficulty. If you end up enjoying this video and want to see more, please consider subscribing for more content as it brings me closer to monetization, which will make it easier to make videos faster for reasons I will explain later in a community post. With that out of the way, enjoy the video. This time I decided to give our sorcerer a name, and I chose Lin Lin, aka Big Mom from One Piece, since she ate the soul fruit and her powers are with the soul. As for her looks, I decided to make her the exact opposite of her inspiration character, and with that sorted, I began the quest. After rising from the grave and getting my blue Gatorade, I almost got my ass handed to me by Gundyr, after realizing just how long it takes to cast heavy soul arrow, but I made it out of the fight with 10 HP left. After which I arrived at the shrine and finally enjoyed the joy of leveling after what felt like 4 months without doing so. As for my stats, I immediately leveled intelligence to 19, then leveled up vigor and endurance to 10, and intelligence to 20 after using the gifted soul, until ending it off with the master NPC souls, which increased attunement to 18 before heading to the high wall. In the high wall, I picked up binoculars for aiming, and soon my first death came from me aggroing a knight and dying to it. Right next to the bonfire at that. After that, I met Emma, and this time I let her live. I then made my way to Fort. This time, I realized that Fort was very slow, and as a result, I produced a heavy soul arrow, which took out chunks of his HP. His most punishable attack is most definitely the Ice Breath after his tantrum. 10 heavy soul arrows, and 44 seconds later, Fort goes down. Immediately after killing Fort, I went to level up strength to 9, when I need 10 to wield the grass crest shield later on. After reaching the settlement, a trio of dogs mobbed me before recruiting Yo. They will be the biggest issue with this one, second to Yo, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. After passing through the settlement with nothing noteworthy to say, save for the essentials and recruiting Yo, I made it to the Road of Sacrifices. Yes, we are skipping Sigurd's questline because if we do it, he will trivialize the Yom fight, which isn't supposed to be the case. After that, I walked back to the shrine and leveled up strength to 10 by Yom to begin the usurpation of his flame ending. Yes, we're going for the hardest ending of the game for this run. While I was there, I sold all items and equipment to get the Soul Greatsword, which I figured to be very important for the fight against the Crystal Sage, and it will help alleviate the pain of Dark Souls. And it was here where I made it my mission to die 15 times before turning into Biltong. For Americans, it's beef jerky, but better. It was also here where I leveled up intelligence to 22 for the Soul Greatsword that I bought earlier, and vigor to 12 to help alleviate me being a glass cannon. After I picked up the grass crest shield, I met the bane of this run, again, Doggo, and almost died, while trying to light up a bonfire. It was also here where I picked up the Sage Ring to shorten casting time, which will help greatly. I spoke to Orbeck to get new spells, but there's one problem with this. Yuria wants him dead, and currently he is the only merchant that gives spells which are darker than mine. I had to choose between power or by far the best ending to the Dark Souls trilogy, so I reached a tiny compromise. I killed the Stray Demon and sold its sword to the Handmaiden for 20k, netting me enough to buy all of the great version of spells and the Farron Flash Sword. I then went and leveled up intelligence again to use the Farron Flash Sword before killing Orbeck, or at least trying to. You see, Orbeck has two things I don't: unlimited FP and a dagger, meaning that he doesn't have to worry about limited spell costs like I do, and can just attack with his dagger whenever he wants to. After being defeated by him more times than I can count, I tried my hand with the Crystal Sage and oof, not looking good. Because I'm still a glass cannon and the damage that I do isn't great, having 2 blue flasks isn't enough, so I decided to try my luck with the Watchers, and I did more than enough damage. The problem wasn't with them being nimble, the problem was finding the right time to attack, and after throwing myself at them for about an hour, I figured out a few windows to attack. First is after the Dragon Slash, Smoke Screen, and in the middle of each attack, if you are far enough to do so. In the second phase, however, I needed to be more careful, as there was the lingering fire, so my dodging skills needed to be on point. So I figured out that instead of me dodging normally, I just needed to run away and create more distance between the two of us. This strategy worked like a charm, and after a few attempts of doing this, and wasting 2 embers due to misfortunate timing, the Abyss Watchers go down. With the souls I got from the Watchers, I leveled up Vigor to 15 and Intelligence to 24. It was also here where I realized just how powerful the Soul Greatsword was, and decided to use it on Orbeck, which did the trick to bring him down. Into the Bone Zone, I rushed through the area only grabbing the Bone Shard, and off to fight Volnir where... Did I seriously die to Volnir? Yes I did. In fact, I was surprised to see his full moveset, which surprised me as I saw just how much damage he can do in a single sweep. If I didn't level up Vigor, it would be a one-hit kill. I can use Soul Greatsword, but its effectiveness is very dependent on my ability to aim for the bracelet. Luckily, on my 4th attempt, High Lord Volnir went down. After leveling up Vigor to 18 and Intelligence to 25, I decided to pray that I had enough damage to kill the Sage, which to my surprise, I did. In fact, even though I was missing out on an extra flask use, I could split them 4-4 and still have enough damage to kill the Sage. The real issue comes with the clones. The clones do way too much damage, and if I am in the wrong place at the wrong time, I can instantly get deleted, which happened to me once. So as a last resort, I opted for the Fern Dart, which uses the least FP and deals the least damage, but at this point anything helps. After wasting a few embers and homeward bones, I finally beat the Crystal Sage. I then made my way to the cathedral to face the demons, where I faced a problem. Yep, I didn't have enough damage to dish out to kill the deacons, or at least that's what I thought. If I allot my Estus 3 to 6 and kill enough deacons, it refills my Estus each 1 by 1, which theoretically enables me to go on forever. But another issue is the part of where the spell takes some time to cast, and if there are too many deacons, I won't be able to cast it without being interrupted, so I need to be quick about where I face them. Still, with this knowledge at hand, I went in with one clear goal: kill them, and that was it. After entering the Irithyll, I went into the dungeon and into the profaned capital, where I picked up the jailer's keys and freed Carla. This is where I realized my grave mistake. Carla only has 2 sorceries, while the rest are pyromancies, meaning I killed my run. The next morning, I woke up early and restarted the run. I don't have any footage of it, as I wanted to keep my sanity and not take up more unnecessary storage on my drive. Just as FYI, I don't like deleting footage at all. In the end, I managed to catch up in about half the time of the first run. While on the second run of mine, I picked up the Sage's Scroll for Orbeck, Crown of Dusk for 10% extra damage, and accidentally got the lingering Dragon Crest ring, which we'll be using later on. In the keep, I also picked up Golden Scroll for Orbeck. Additionally, I picked up Logan's Scroll after teasing the NPC who had it, but I forgot to start recording when I realized I was farther in the game. Back to recording, and this time, with everything ready, I made my attempt at Pontiff. After a bit of trial and error, I realized that the best spells when it came to dealing with him was Soul Greatsword. And after doing the math, I found that there was more than enough potential damage. The only issue was that I didn't know how to approach it. I could try parrying him when the window was there, but because I was already very squishy, and it only made my life harder than it needed to be. So after assessing that I should come back later to make my life easier once I had better spells and damage, I tried the Dancer. This time around, I had the same issue with Dancer. I was squishy and I didn't do enough damage. I simply went to Rosaria and respec so I could wield the Soul Spear. I also forgot to mention that I swapped to the Heretic stock and upgraded it to +5 for more range. And after a few more attempts, that's when it finally clicked in my head. I was supposed to be a distance away from her. Her attacks from a distance are much easier to dodge compared to at close range. So I swapped out all my spells and equipped Homing Soul Mass, Great Soul Arrow, and Soul Spear. And after a few tries, and finally going in with an Ember active, I finally won. The tangle with the Dancer was over. After my fight with Dancer, I realized that I could have made my fight so much easier if I had spent 5 minutes to get the Bellowing Dragon Test ring. But nonetheless, I went to go get the ring, and while I was at it, I saved Carla once again, simply because those two spells I was very interested in using. After some farming and discoveries, I equipped Dark Edge and Affinity. These spells will do wonders for the fight against Pontiff. After a few attempts, I concluded that Pontiff had the same issue as Dancer. Staying close equals death, but I had an issue with range. Instead of being in a smaller arena with a big boss, it was the exact opposite. I could try parrying and casting the spell, but again, no extra damage is yielded, since the spells take too long to cast. To add on, I can't lock onto him from anything further than medium distance. So I decided to make my life easier by upgrading my staff to +8, and after doing so, I saw a much better improvement in my damage. But again, casting time was still an issue. After doing a bit more research, I found that with the Sage Ring equipped, I would reach max casting speed at 20 decks. So I went back to farming Lockwood Magics like no tomorrow. I know that I could use the Magic Fluctuate, but that will only worsen my dilemma since it lowers my defenses and I'm already squishy. So I simply decided to leave it with this boss. This time, I could easily tank 4 to 5 hits at a time before needing to heal. And I could also deal more damage and roll out of the way in time. With this improvement, I was able to get to the second phase on my first attempt of the day, but I saw a huge damage drop off in phase 2, dealing 230 instead of the usual 329. So I opted to go back to the Soul Greatsword for the second phase, which deals the same damage as in phase 1. It was also here where I realized the best window of opportunity, his turns. If you're on the side of his Ash Sword, he will turn but with fire, he will backhand slash. So when it comes to finding the right window, it's best to move to the right rather than the left. Additionally, you can try using the stairs to avoid some of his hits, if necessary. Surprisingly, after a few more attempts, I defeated him. This is when I needed to make a choice. Fight Aldrich, who has higher resistances, or fight Yorm, who has lower resistances and a chunky health bar. At first, I really didn't know what to choose, so I went with something completely different. Osiris is different from the rest. While he may be a bit more resistant to magic and has a larger health pool than Aldrich, he had one thing that can lead to his downfall.
Oh my god, stop bro, I'm stuck! Can you help me?
Yes, because his AI doesn't understand the meaning of obstacle in the way, he can easily get stuck in a position where it's very easy to cheese him with Pestilent Mist. And surprisingly, I got him stuck in a peculiar place. As for I was floating in the air. I don't know whether or not this is a glitch, or if there's an invisible object that I'm standing on. Either way, it did make my job easier than usual because of the trunk in the way. Because of the chunk in the way, I couldn't use Soul Spear, and Pestilent Mist was also very unreliable, as when I used it, the best I could do was get 200 damage. So I don't know what was happening. Nevertheless, I defeated Osiris, the Consumed King. From there, I went into the Untended Graves to fight Gundyr again. Like the first time, nothing changed, save for the fact that I wanted to feel a bit more of a challenge, so I parried him less than usual. It was finally time to see Aldrich. He tends to stay still if we stay at medium range, meaning that gives us a chance to use Pestilent Mist. We do more than enough damage to kill him. But the issue is the fact that we can't use Cloud of Dust, which brings me into negative with magic. So we must rely on the Wings of Things. After a few more attempts, I learned that after he has teleported, it is safe to chase after him. And after a few more attempts, then I'd like to admit, I finally beat the Devourer of Gods, Aldrich. It was here where I was left with only one Lord of Cinder left. There is a reason why I was holding off on facing Yorm, and it's as I mentioned, the chunky health bar. It was the only thing that was keeping me thinking on how to approach him. So it was here where I decided that it was time for me to get Magic Fluxing. Surprisingly, with a single headshot, a Soul Spear does over 1000 damage. This is with a +9 staff at 44 intelligence with rings, so I am much better off than I thought. Moreover, the damage from Pestilent Mist is crazy. If I can stun him after connecting 2 Soul Spears to his head, I can easily just cast a Pestilent Mist, and this damage just melts his health bar. And after a few moments, Yorm the Giant goes down. After getting summoned by a non-existent Emma again, I started to realize that bosses don't give many levels, so at most, I was only able to get 2 levels from a single boss. And this is with me quick swapping to the Shield of One and Covered Silver Serpent Ring. So to say the least, farming had become tantamount for me to reach 60 intelligence. Still, right now I decided to go to Archdragon Peak, but I wanted to hold off on that as much as I possibly could, since the Wyvern is actually a boss this time around. So after leveling intelligence to 45, it was time to fight the Dragon Slayer armor. The Slayer is fast and has normal resistances to magic, so there's nothing to really worry about. I only use 3 spells here: Great Soul Arrow, Soul Spear, and Soul Great Sword. Even after all this time, these spells were very serviceable this late into the game. But now isn't the time to get sentimental. But now that I think about it, this could have been my revenge for the pain it caused me in SR1, because the damage I did was ludicrous. Still, in less than 2 minutes, the Slayer armor went down. The Princes are Blitz fight, to see how fast you can do damage, react, and dodge accordingly, as well as manage the damage dealt both Princes. Lorien is the simpler guy in the fight. He has health that gets absolutely rampant with the Crystal Soul Spear. All I needed to do was stay at medium range so the spell can reach the Princes. There was no need for me to dodge behind them anymore, as I could simply deal damage from the front. So after changing my setup a few more times, I went back to them. This attempt was going very well. I was dealing a lot of damage to both Princes and managing my ace as well. They weren't overly aggressive, but they did punish me for my mistakes. It was all great until I saw that my Ashen Blast was empty. I didn't have enough damage to kill them both, so in the end I had to dodge to the side and kill Lothric there. The twin Princes are now dealt with, and their soul is mine. After the fight and some farming, I reached 55 intelligence, meaning that I was so close to reaching the hard cap of damage. I decided to go to Archdragon Peak and kill the Wyvern. Now normally I would have to run into a plunging attack, but this time all I needed was Pestilent Mist and the right position to pick the Wyvern's AI. And after a few minutes, the Wyvern went down. I farmed until I had enough swords to reach 60 intelligence, reaching the hard cap for damage output. And with all of that set up, I went to go have a slow dance with the king himself. Sorry, he doesn't have a name. The King of the Storm is very susceptible to magic damage, and he doesn't give us much trouble, especially since I decided to use spells that do a lot of damage. To my surprise, White Dragon Breath doesn't work here. Could be because the spell needs stable ground and we're in the cloud. The Nameless King, to say the least, is one of the most pitiful bosses when fighting at longer range. He does specialize in short range, but at long range, the two attacks he can do are the Flying Lunge and the Clothesliner. After 3 attempts, the Nameless King went down. Now that we are at the best damage output, I decided to pay more attention to my attunements, since I want to be able to use my best spells without having to exhaust my Estus too quickly. So all the levels went into that stat. After heading into the DLC, I decided to not cheese Wilhelm, since the shield does damage, and consistently kicking him is a challenge, mainly because I refused to practice it and get the timings right. This is also when I discovered that he has Vow of Silence, meaning he can choose to stop me from doing damage. If only I could use it. Regardless, we kill him and open the door to Oriendal. Already in the first phase is an issue. Nefida moves way too fast for me to do any damage with my slow spells. While we are playing the game, she has 4 parallel universes ahead of us because she plays like Bloodborne. Thank you, Miyazaki. Still, I decided to swap back to magic damage because while I may be doing less damage, it is better for me to at least be doing damage and not wasting my FP willy-nilly. And on that attempt, I realized another thing. Nefida doesn't seem to dodge projectiles. After going in again, my theory was semi-correct. Most of the time she will dodge when not acting at all, else she will just tank the attack. This reassured me and made me equip Great Soul Arrow and Soul Greatsword and allowed my Estus to 6-6. Still, with all of this setup, I knew I could win, since I had 2 lower Estus, so I made rounds getting the rest of the shard while I was at it. I decided to not wear the Crown of Dust as Frida did magic damage, hence why she had such high resistance. That seemed to be the thing that won me the fight, since after 2 more attempts, Sister Frida went down. I went to Drakekeep with barely anything to pick up save the Ring of Steel Protection Ring and the Fat Ring, or at least that's what I thought. I then tried to pass the trio of all pain, suffering and futility, and failed on the first try, before reaching 10 demons. Despite the high resistance, I can easily deal more than enough damage if my spells don't miss. At least this is Empowerment healing, right? Anyway, the video must go on. So after throwing myself at him, I realized that Great Heavy Soul Arrow was the best option, as it was very FP efficient and the damage was more than enough. This fight is simply all about stamina management and crowd control. In the first phase, you want to focus on the demon in pain for an easier second phase. When you first enter the arena, lock onto the demon on the right and cast twice, before going ahead just running away from them. When both demons are active, run away until the demon from below decides to tag out. From here, just focus on being reactive and give yourself enough space to avoid the demon's attacks while you cast spells. When both demons are active, you can just spray and pray. The second phase is a bit different. When the prince flies back, run towards him as he will cast laser, which is easily punishable. Beware of the second one though, as that can spell instant death if you aren't at full health. Oh, and watch out for those magma rocks, it can easily delete you. If you follow all of these precautions and steps, you'll be home free to the Ringed City. After killing the prince, I decided to level up endurance twice as I figured that it would be best since I wanted to prioritize damage, but with that out of the way, there are only 3 bosses left for me to take care of. After reaching the Shared Grave bonfire, I equipped Pestilent Mist for the good old wait and bait. I teased Meteor off the bridge and met him halfway. I would love to show it to you, but I forgot to start recording, so I don't have any footage of it. I know that this is the second time in a row where I mess up recording, but it could be much worse. At least I'm not recording on the PlayStation, and that's a whole mess in itself. Still, it's my fault for this error. Anywho, I got the old Moonlight spell, which is Moonlight Greatsword, but as a spell in exchange for Meteor's soul. Now it was time to face Hotline. Honestly, this fight was as normal as you can get, so nothing noteworthy to write home about. With this, there was only Gale left, and if I got to be honest, there was only one thing that I forgot about Gale. Fighting him is a game of patience. Greed and DPS is the bane of my existence in this fight. Luckily, I quickly woke up again and noticed that I just had to focus on being reactive, not proactive, at least for the first phase. Luckily, Gale gives you a good window of opportunity when he is walking to you in the second phase, giving a huge window for you to shove spells down his throat. As for the third phase, he is more aggressive and you will need to be back on defense. I personally used great heavy sword arrows, so it wasn't anything too special. Still, Gale soon went down. With everyone now dead, I went to defeat the Soul of Cinder again. Cinder really wasn't that kind to me today. He constantly rushed me down and barely gave me any time to recover. Mix that in with the damage that is on par with Medea. You can be in for a rough fight. Luckily, I kept my composure and used the spells at the right time. And on the first attempt, Sword of Cinder is defeated.